out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Tim, hello.
Good morning, Ryan.
And hello to everyone out there listening. Welcome to episode 21 of Dismembering Horror.
Oh,
the
21.
Podcast show where what do we do, Tim?
We dismember a weekly horror film that we watched and you watched, hopefully.
Yes.
And pull it apart into little pieces.
Yep. Talk about what worked for us, what did not work for us, and anything that we found interesting or noteworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you did too, after we shared it with you.
Yeah.
And I'm in much better spirits today. Last week was a slog getting through Maggie.
Oh, God. I'd already just forgotten about it.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me.
Sorry. But Ghost Stories is today's film. I thought was much more interested in this film.
Yeah.
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 And with good reason, I think.
Yeah. This was a recent film. I'm ready to talk about it. If you are, Tim, should we get into it?
Let's get into it.
The name of the film we watched, as I just said, we weren't talking about what it consists of. We were talking about the name of the film itself, and that again is Ghost Stories.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Professor Philip Goodman. My job is to explain the unexplainable, untangle the truth from the fiction. You don't have to have your life ruled by superstitious fear.
Mr. Goodman, everything you have spent a lifetime trying to debunk the supernatural, it's all true. 3 cases I couldn't explain. You go and investigate if you dare. Things are not always as they seem.
Tell me about your incident.
You don't believe, do you?
Hello?
I don't want people looking at me and thinking that I'm mad. Because I know what I saw.
No. Do you believe in evil, Professor?
I didn't. Until that night.
Ooh.
Yeah, remember seeing that trailer when we saw whatchamacallit?
The other horrible zombie movie we
Yeah,
watched?
we saw The Cured at the New Art Theater in Los Angeles and saw the trailer for Ghost Stories, and I'm like, I'm down. We gotta see this.
And interestingly, I remember seeing that trailer and kind of being like, that looks like it might be crappy. I was wrong.
Yeah? Cool.
I mean, I wasn't wrong that I thought it looked like it might be crappy because I thought that.
Yeah.
So I was right in thinking that I thought that it might look crappy. But I was incorrect in thinking that because I thought the trailer looked crappy, that the movie would be crappy.
It's interesting how it was loaded with accolades, yet how that's almost become something we're numb to now. Because, like...
I don't care what fig leaves you got. Is that what they're called? I forget.
You know, I think there's a threshold. That's an interesting thing,
when you
though.
put 50 of them up on a screen, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, well, if it's...
You got the Poughkeepsie International...
Well, if there's 50 of them, they're more reliable, and it's like maybe a little time has passed, or it's something that's been in the festival circuit for a while. Like, I think you know, the Witch and Hereditary are ones I loved. I think those were deserving.
Yeah, but just put like the four good ones.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's a billion film festivals. Who gives a shit? I mean, I know people who have made shit films that have gotten, have won film festivals, but it's like, the Manitoba Springs, that's not a place, but the Manitoba Springs
I don't know.
International,
But there's still like the
whatever.
guy from Manitoba could be a bigger authority on horror films than whoever, the hell
That's
from
true.
Variety, who just feels like he has
But what
to...
I guess what I'm saying, I'm not trying to discredit that win. I'm just saying that we, as the audience, I don't think that propels our interest by saying that it won some obscure film festival.
Yeah.
I think if you say, you won one of, there's like 6 that are the top ones that everybody's heard of, right? It's like Sundance, Tribeca, South by Southwest, What else?
Yeah.
Toronto. You know what I mean? There's the big ones that you hear about. If you throw one of those up there, if you won one of those, you could just say that, and people would be like, "Oh shit!" Like that's hard.
That's
to
interesting.
do.
How that still has some
I think it
validity,
does.
but like when
if you show 50 of them, I think it waters that down for some reason.
Yeah, I guess
to me,
it's interesting. I don't know.
I also think it's just visually annoying. Mm-hmm. Like, stop throwing those palm fronds up in my face. Is that what they're called? Probably not.
Palms. You mean the you mean the laurels?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's right.
The film festival laurels. I was talking more about actual like I was talking more about actual like pull quotes.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it speaks more to how we only trust who we trust, like who we know.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, just because I recognize Variety or Chicago Sun-Times or you know, but like, I don't know, there's certain people. That's why we follow people online and be like, oh, I trust their opinion. If they
you know what? I don't think I trust anybody's opinion.
That's it,
and
yeah.
even my own. I'm like, you don't have to listen to me.
Right.
Like, it's just my opinion.
Right.
Like, it's probably, I mean, it is by definition subjective. Like, even if you, like, I could try to say that objectively Maggie is bad. That's incorrect.
Yeah.
Right? I just don't like it.
Which is why
at all.
our sections are specifically what worked for
Right.
us.
That's right.
For us.
Yes.
We acknowledge that and hope this is more just a sort of gets you thinking about if you agree or disagree with each of these points we build up. It's more that we bring up. It's more just about bringing them up.
Yeah, and having a discussion.
Good. This was a roundabout way to sort of clarify even more what this podcast is.
Yeah.
But
wait, can we tangentially? How do I look?
Oh yeah, you got some new glasses. Is that what you were?
Do I look smarter?
You already looked smart, Tim.
Wow. Was it the mustache?
No.
Damn it.
It was your not quite piercing gaze, but perceptive.
Jus de vivre? I don't know what that means.
You're observing demeanor.
I'm going to observe all over the place.
And so how would you give this a summary? Not your glasses or how you look, but this film.
Summary. Okay, so...
Ghost Stories.
Let's see. Ghost Stories is... Shit, what was his name?
Philip Goodman.
Goodman, right. Okay,
Professor.
Right. It's the story of Professor Goodman, and he is a skeptic and a debunker of paranormal, and, you know, like, what are those called? Sort of the charlatans that take advantage of that world. But he is given 3 cases. We don't need to get into how, but he's given 3 cases that are meant to tell him that he's full of shit. And so he goes to investigate those 3 cases, and we turn into this sort of anthology style where we get a little piece of his, you know, introduction to the cases, and then we get a cutaway to those stories, which is a really nice setup. And how do you summarize? I mean,
that's the setup. That's
right.
it.
Like,
yeah,
without getting into kind of the deeper context or meaning of each story or the interconnectivity. But there is interconnectivity, which I thought was very well done.
Yeah. I guess I'd clarify, or I mean, how I viewed it in the context of the film. The cases are given to him to like show him, you know, he's full of it. But in the context of the actual sort of greater what the story's doing, how it's functioning, that's what it does. But like how it actually plays out in the story is more like given to him by someone who's like, please just prove me I'm wrong. Like these are the ones that I couldn't figure out.
Right. And not only could I not figure out, but I was wrong in ever being a skeptic.
Yeah.
These are the cases that made me change my mind.
So,
which is cool.
How would you
prove me wrong kind of thing?
How did you rate this film? In our scale of, would you tell yourself, Tim, to avoid it, to stream it, to rent it, or buy it?
I would definitely rent this. It's pretty close to... No, I just rented. I was going to say it's pretty close to a buy, but I don't think... I kind of would want to watch it again.
It's a movie, yeah. So I give it a strong rent.
Yeah.
And I could see it growing on me to a buy because of the way I'm still thinking about it now. I want to see, you know, I've kind of brought this up before, but something, if it's a buy for me, I probably am not going to know it the next day when we are recording a podcast on it, you know? Good movies like that, they aren't, they're great because they have a lasting impression and give you something to mull over and stick with you. Yeah. And like sort of what's interesting rises to the top.
And like if you saw, you know, at some point in the future, you saw an opportunity to buy it, you'd be like, oh shit, I want that.
Yeah, I might. So, but for now, as officially putting it down as a strong rent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm into that. Can you talk just briefly about, before we get into this, about your love of anthologies?
My love of anthologies? Well,
your current interest in them?
Yeah, I had actually been seeking out anthology films recently. I've watched a handful. Finally watched ABCs of Death. There's the Tales of Halloween on Netflix. Both of the Tales from the Dark Side. Or no, sorry,
Tale of
Creep
Tales.
Show. Creep Shows.
Isn't Tale of Tales that one that you...
Yeah, yes and no. It's
too?
sort of like... It sort of kind of pushes the there's different interconnecting stories, but it's kind of more like Trick or Treat, how they intersect just sort of where it almost feels like it is its own standalone. But and some other ones, forgetting the name.
There's like XX.
The
Did
prequel.
you see that?
I haven't watched that. I watched what we haven't watched this yet, but Terrifier, you see it on Netflix with the clown guy, Art the Clown. I watched the film that introduced his character.
Interesting. I bet that's better than the
I actually
feature.
dug it. It was cool.
There's also one called Southbound. Have you seen that one?
That one's on my on my list.
I watched that. I liked it.
Sorry, I'm just listing the films now, but my interest in it.
Right.
There
was a question in there.
I'm working on developing a horror anthology project myself.
Cool. Can I be in it? Can I be like, I don't know, like a zombie or something?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, there's maybe, I don't know if I want to get into this, but kind of.
Don't spoil it.
Great, thanks. But remind me to answer that later, because yes, in a
Ooh.
way.
I mean, I'll just hold the fucking sound.
No,
boom.
I think there's a good spot for you in it. I'll tell you about. But no, it's been fun, and that's kind of like what we're doing here, because we're both, you know, filmmakers in our own right here, and a lot of this podcast is we want to like delve. You know, it's educational. See what else is out there. Like doing this helps us grow. We like to think as filmmakers, and hopefully you too in your creative endeavors.
So much to learn from what not to do.
So thanks to Tim's magic fingers, he pulled out ghost stories. Yeah. And I'd be excited to get into what worked for us.
Yeah, we should.
What worked for you? What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked? What worked for you?
I have one.
Yeah.
The movie works for me.
Great, me too. The movie worked for me, Tim.
Like, it's a movie.
Yeah.
And it's so well constructed and very cohesive, and there were no parts where I was like, what? But no.
So the movie works as a whole. Now I've broken down into three large chunks, like what makes a movie work in this sense, and why that worked in this sense, why the ghost stories worked for me. So there's the actual sort of like the hook of the wraparound and the plotting structure or the setup or whatever.
Sure. Which we saw in Asylum.
Asylum was another horror anthology.
That sort of same, let's introduce the underlying reason we're here and the thread that we're going to weave that has connection through these anthologies. I think that's smart when you're doing an anthology to do that and do it well. So
what you already said when, you know, in the summary, what this one is Skeptic gets handed files of, you know, some paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
And has at it. So there's that set up earlier, which I want to say when we're using the word skeptic. So yeah, in the story sense too, that's the other chunk that I liked. If that's a sort of I said the 3 different things I liked. That first one was the wraparound, the hook, the setup, the jumping off point, but then the actual story. And then I said the word skeptic, of like a person who's certain they know certain things about how the world works.
Sure.
Gets put into a situation where it's like they must determine the validity of these things that they're going in saying, I already know how the world works.
Right, which we've talked about before, right?
Yeah.
In that, like, you and I think, use the word skeptic in a different way.
That's what I wanted to say right now, is say that again, is like Tim and I, we both feel like skeptic, how it's commonly used, is almost a misnomer.
That there's like absolutism to it.
Yeah.
That like a skeptic believes what they believe unmovably.
Yeah, which is
or immovably.
Inherently, as far as I view the word.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah, and I think we talked about sort of thinking like a skeptic is more to us somebody who agrees that they don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say ghosts exist or don't exist. I don't know. That's why I'm skeptical of anybody who says they know.
Right. A true skeptic.
Right.
Versus, I'm a skeptic. I don't believe in any of that stuff. That's, that's
just asshole talk.
Come on, guys. It's fun. Look at this ghost stuff. So, and then
I just like calling people assholes.
And then the third, why this really solidified in me as a great film was the third tier here is the deeper character story that was going on by the end. Mm-hmm. It's one that like, it's like where I see myself in, where it's that the idea of seeing how there's fault in inaction, where like where it's like we like to think we aren't culpable because we didn't do anything. And exactly, like in this situation, in the film, once we get to the ending, we see that this main character's demon, that sort of is his demon, his jumping off point for all his woes, is he didn't face his fears against some bullies and help someone in need, and then as a result, someone died.
Yeah. There's a famous quote about that, and I forget who it's by and even what it is, but it's something to the effect of like, it's way worse to do nothing. You know what I mean? It's like than to. That's
like in a sort of. I mean, there's that quote in the context of, is it like a Martin Luther King Jr. quote or something? Yeah. As far as in a political sense or a.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if I can find it really quick.
It's fine. We don't need to know it. So you say the movie was a thing that worked for you.
Yeah.
And those for me are the overarching things that make it. Yes, it worked as a movie.
I totally agree. The third, to your third point, the sort of the backstory that comes back around. In the very opening, they're sort of showing. They're showing this guy as a child and his family dynamic, and it sort of it feels to it. I was like, where are we going with this, and why does this matter at all? And for basically the entire movie until the last 15 minutes, it is not touched whatsoever.
Can you remind us what that setup was?
Yeah, like that he's like, yeah, my dad's beliefs are the reason like my life is fucked up.
Yeah.
And they show some kind of mock home video footage of his family and his sister going on dates and his dad flipping out, and like it's all very kind of homemade filmmaker stuff. And I thought, that's all fine and good. We're establishing that this guy, is a documentarian and has been since he was a kid. But what does his dad being a kind of an asshole have to do with anything? And you never really touch on it until we've finished all three of the anthology
It's kind
stories.
of just like, oh, this is kind of fun, spooky character setup.
And I had pretty much forgotten about it.
Yeah.
It was, brief enough, but also disconnected enough that until it came back around, I was like, whatever. And then when it did, I was like, oh, fuck, right. Oh, yes.
It's called good setup, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I like that.
Stay more overarching here. I loved how speaking like an anthology horror sense, I liked how each of the three tales had their different sort of bent to it, as in you had the first one was a ghost one, the second one was a demon one, and the third one was a poltergeist one.
That's right.
So even like, leaving the sort of wraparound overall story film, like even in an anthology, it worked in that sense
smart.
too.
Yeah. I like that.
Did you have any other like, I guess overarching, broad why it worked for you?
I mean, not sort of story-wise, but they're all just so well shot and so just fucking good looking.
Yeah, actually, I mean, you bring up, so bringing up now, I didn't put down how it was shot, but you reminded me that is something I wanted to put down, because it was at that level, it was at that good enough level, like, how I've complained a lot before where it's like, it looks too slick, for be scary, like Lake Bottom, films like that. It
didn't feel like that to me. It felt like something else is going on. Like, you're seeing the filmmaking in Lake Bottom. I didn't feel like I was seeing the filmmaking in this. I just felt like I was in a place.
Yeah, this was good enough that it was at that, I'll use it, remember I said Lake Bottom when compared to David Fincher, but like David Fincher films are way, 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 way better because you lose yourself in the movie more. So I think this is more accurate comparison, where it's like, when you get into like the murderous, crime world of a David Fincher movie and it hits you hard. That's what was going on with this too. It was at that level. That was just cool. Ghost Stories was
it just shot in a way. We're in really good hands. Mm-hmm. Like I never thought and we'll get to it. There's some very specific stuff, that sort of third act stuff that is just fucking amazing visual filmmaking.
Yeah.
So these guys knew what the fuck they were doing, like no question whatsoever.
Great. I'm glad you bring it up, how it was shot.
Yeah. And I say this every time pretty much, unless it's really bad, but like everybody's performance is great. The design is great.
Anything unique to how it was an anthology film, why it worked for you?
Well, that's interesting. I think they did a good job of keeping us with this main guy, the professor, enough to ease into the cutaway of the story. Like it's not seamless entirely, but there is a really nice flow between him meeting with these case file, whoever it is. The first guy is what was his job? He was what do you call that?
Security guard?
Sure, security guard. The scene lead up to cutting to the guy's story in each one of these is really, really well constructed. It's not just a sort of like, oh, let's get to it. There's actual like substantive like interaction that is interesting. It's an interesting, like the whole pub scene and whether he's going to get him to talk has something to it in and of itself. And then when we finally do get to the point where he's like agreeing to talk, the transition into it feels easier than a hard in, not that I didn't like Asylum, because I did, but in Asylum it's like he basically opens the door and they're like, this is so and so, and it's like hard cut to the story.
Yeah, so you're saying it gives us just a little bit more intrigue into each of the characters and their situation and wanting to know about their background.
Yeah, and even in that, sort of what they're giving us, it's not heavy-handed. It's like a well-written scene.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's nice, and it's simple too, because it's just like, here's when he first shows up to talk to this person.
Yeah.
Let's just see it play out. How do we get to the moment where they actually start talking?
Well, and also they add little bits and bobs, I guess, of we're still with what's his first name? Shit. Philip. We're still with Philip Goodman. Even between, like, before he gets to the next person, we get to see a little bit of him just sort of taking in what he just experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And they're little jump cuts, like a little bit of time has passed. He's not like, okay, well, thanks for telling me that story. I'm going to go now. You know, it's like 20 minutes later or an hour later, and he's kind of in the, in the glow, or whatever you want to call it, of that story that we've just cut away from. Which, and I don't know if this is too specific, but every one of these, the cutaways, what do you want to call these stories? Each story ends with sort of a cliffhanger in a way. Like each one of them has sort of that final scare moment without a resolution to it.
It's nice because it puts us that we are still in the story. It has affected them so deeply that when we catch up with the present with them, it's like this is where we're at now.
Well, and I think it's a really smart device, because when you learn what's actually going on in the end, you realize having open-endedness to each story speaks to a larger, context of what's actually going on.
Yeah. Great.
And that's good writing.
Yeah.
Like, really good writing.
So this was all why it worked for me, what I was saying before. Now, I want to, can you go off a cliff with me here into why I loved it, though?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This is what we're going to do. This is when anyone who will put up with me talking about why I love Inherent Vice knows how I can just, that's why I use the term go off a cliff. You're going to hate me.
I keep starting Inherent Vice, and then I haven't watched it.
That's understandable.
Like, I've gotten through the first 5 or 6 minutes.
Knowing you and how you kind of watch movies, I don't blame you.
I need to sit down and devote my time to it.
Next time it plays in theaters, I'll drag you to it.
See, then I have to pay attention.
I know.
I'll do it that way.
That's what it deserves. So, I want to use also as a sort of a touchstone point, and I'll be talking about through this, is the new, was it The Haunting of Hill House? Mm-hmm. The Netflix mini-series, whatever you'd call it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be referencing that in this. So my going into this film, there's always the kind of, when you're figuring out what is this film, what is it going to be, and I was like a little disappointed, but then on board when the sort of like it started with some intense music stuff during one of the first segments, and it was like, okay, this is going to be a kind of fun, creepy, scary movie, but where it's actually can be scary, too, and creepy, which is like, I think on the level of Hill House, where it's like, okay, there's like it's like good jump scare moments almost, you know what I mean? Like effective kind of Funhouse kind of style, but it's like, oh, that's actually creepy, unsettling makeup design. That's good, setup, whatever, all that stuff. So it had that going for it. It was great. That kind of creepy, but feels also kind of safe in a way. It's not going to be like The Shining for me, where it's just like I'm shook to the core.
Sure.
So kind of like what I liked, why I ended up liking Hill House in the end, and why I ended up loving this film, though, because it wasn't 10 hours like Hill House, was the way the at a certain point thinks that like the twist in this one, it goes, oh, this like kind of fun safeness that I thought I was in is actually just a setup for getting that rug pulled out from under me. So like to get into the ending, when you're setting up what happens in the third act of, we're actually not in reality. This is, conceivably in the guy's in the guy's head, the main character's head. He's been in an accident, and these are just sort of his regrets and demons and self-hatred being, his brain doing that work for him and building up this construct, which is also like a trap in a way too, as far as it's like Hill House. All the characters sort of have their the thing that we keep doing that actually keeps us trapped in this thing that we're trying that we want to escape from. Which since this was like a character, I could relate to his demons, and then just the way, as I said, because I thought this was fun and safe, and all of a sudden, oh shit, I don't know what's going on here. That it turned that into, okay, this is actually chilling, like I said, and unnerving the best of ways, which I say Hill House did for me in the end with kind of the concept of the Red Room, and like other recent horror films I've really loved that have done that. The Wailing I've mentioned before, and you watched, where it's just like, is it a ghost? Which one's the ghost? Oh God, is this real? Is this hallucination? It's like, ugh.
Who's actually there and who's seen stuff? And are they credible?
It's the best kind of uncertainty.
Yes, uncertainty is super important.
Yes. Exactly. Well, yeah, how I put it, it's like I want my brain to break that little bit.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're grasping for logic, but it's not there, and your hands are slipping at the edge of the cliff. And that's what's scary.
Yeah.
That experience.
I would go one, just to commend these writers and filmmakers, I'd go one step deeper. Their ability to weave uncertainty on top of very primal and very layered story and sort of thematic things that relate directly to the actual reality of the story of him being in a coma and whatever brought him to that point, using sort of deeper imagery that on its surface level is creating this sense of uncertainty and what the hell, and is my brain breaking, and all of those things. But there is deeper contextual and sort of what's the word? It's sort of I guess just thematic things. Like, for example, the sewer. Why do you choose that as a writer for that particular storyline? The sending this kid down this sewer that gets smaller and smaller and smaller until he gets stuck and dies, right? There's actually a deeper sort of primal nature and symbolism to that, if in the context of somebody who's in a coma.
It's digging yourself into a hole.
Right. And dying in it, like stopping breathing. Like there's layered meaning of symbolic meaning to that. It's not arbitrary.
Yeah.
And yet when we're watching it in the scene without the context of him being in the coma, it's also creepy and weird, and like it's, it kind of makes sense, but also kind of fucking unsettling and uncertain, and like, what the hell? And we get why, but not really. And it's creating this vibe that you're talking about. That's really good fucking filmmaking and writing.
That's a good answer to my question I pose for both of us, which I think has kind of multifaceted. But it's like, so if it is, relying on this uncertainty and get this deep unnervingness in the context of the film, I could see someone watching it and just being like, oh, okay, it's just a dream. It's the Wizard of Oz ending. Oh, it's just a dream in the end. Right. And that sort of undermining everything, we said, being able to, but for some reason, it's different. As I said, multifaceted. It's on different levels. It's just in the filmmaking where it's like, I feel on unstable grounds. Like, to get to, when you were talking about how it was well shot, I think you're going to say the tearing away of the background.
That is one of the most awesome visuals. It's so fucking brilliant to me.
The tearing away of the background, yeah.
Yeah, it's so fucking compelling and mind-breaking.
Because of that, even when I get to the hospital and we're any semblance of supposed to be thinking, oh, this is real, we are safe again, it's not there.
Yeah.
Because it's all just sort of out the window. I don't have any stable ground anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I love that. That really is this movie, is like, I'm never really on stable ground.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And that's to me is what I think when we talk about the hunt for good horror, that's what it's all about.
Hell yeah. Yeah, because I mean, if nothing else, like what is fear and why do we get scared? It's because we don't know what's going to happen. And if you can create that consistently, that sort of underlying feeling of like insecurity, like I am not secure in even what I know is going on.
So
that's fucking great.
Let's pick that apart, because I think why that's actually scary is when we say what's scary is we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Is because we do know what's going to happen.
Whoa, what?
Yes. Let me explain. As evidenced
Hang on. Let me light this joint.
So remember the quote that was kind of the quote of this film, and it's on the better of the two posters for this film? I'm just going to tell you. The brain sees what it wants to see.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they say that a couple times, right?
Right. Which to me means, we can think of that in terms of how nightmares...
Holy shit.
You following what I'm saying?
That's... So one of my questions, and something that I was considering putting in things that didn't work, but now I can't, is the scene with the charlatan. That scene now makes sense, like why that scene is in there. That scene of him, the guy who pretends to know what, he's like, what do you call it? He's a medium, right? And he's a fraud. He's doing what you're describing. Mm-hmm. He's creating a thing that these people want to believe. They're seeing what they want to see by going to him. They wouldn't go to him in the first place, right? Who gives a shit if he's a fraud?
Right.
He's giving them that. So that's why that scene is there. It's a perfect fucking analogy for what you're talking about.
There's also the difference between want and need, because
Sure.
we could say this main character Philip if in the context of the brain sees what it wants to see, mm-hmm. is he's not going to ever believe in this stuff, because even if he sees the ghost right in front of him, he's going to, I don't know, say I was crazy, whatever, right. his brain will trick him out of it. But to think of that quote in terms of it's actually the brain sees what it needs to see, then that explains, like, if he spends his whole life not confronting this demon of his subconscious, in this nightmare level, it's going to be telling at him. It's going to be telling him these stories, trying to encourage his, his comatose, his self-aware self that is, our protagonist still. I don't think that's why I think it still has validity, is because that's not just some dream him. That is him. That's him. Maybe it's like you have your personal views on what dreams are or whatever, but like there's still you're conscious in your dreams. You're scared when you wake up from a dream. It happened to you is how it feels. So it's not wrong, to say that this happened to me in a dream when it happened.
Oh, man.
So I think like this film is sort of, it shows how, even though we want... what's scary is what we don't know. To bring it back, is what's scarier is what we do like know on some deep level, even if it's whether it's conscious or not.
Yes.
That we're afraid to say we know.
It's why I'm single.
Yep.
Because every time I meet somebody who I'm like, oh shit, this girl is amazing. I really want this to work. I get scared that I will fuck that up. So I know what you're saying. I know I'm actually so almost even manifesting a reality by giving into the fear that I might fuck it up. So that fear thing, that fear response is so based in what we know as a possible reality, that like a possible outcome. Yeah. So knowing, in a way, it's like, why are we scared of the dark? It's not because the dark is scary. It's because we know that if something actually is in there with us, we're pointing at the thing that is scary. The dark's not scary. The idea that something might be in there with us is scary.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's the challenge, It's like that's the phrase we're only growing when we're being challenged or doing what's scary. Freedom lies on the other side of fear.
Ooh.
All that stuff.
Man, I'm so glad we did those mushrooms
for this episode. No. Yeah, good.
We didn't do drugs. Don't do drugs.
Exactly.
Or live your life. Who gives a shit?
Watch films. Yeah. On drugs sometimes.
Man, that's trippy, but it's so true. And I think is really a reflection of the broader construction of this movie. There are so many kind of layers of where you can sort of contextually look at what is going on. Because at any given moment in this movie, you can and sometimes have to, in hindsight, step back and go, oh, wait a minute, what part of this actually is real? Right?
Yeah.
And even that question is sort of flawed in this movie because nothing is really real in it and everything is real in it.
You brought up mushrooms and now I want to connect it to psychedelics, Tim.
Okay.
Because I think it is, because it's interesting, I think, and about this idea of being trapped in a space and having to give up the sense of that solid ground,
Right.
That's what
which is that being human, right?
Right.
Like we as human beings are constantly bombarded with the idea that structure exists, that like norms exist, that you're supposed to do this or...
Well, it's because those are important in order for us to do anything.
Right. No, they are important, but what's I think also broadening and interesting is to realize that there's more to it.
Yeah. From my knowledge, what psychedelics maybe can force you to do is to say, this is, you want to know it's real or not? Sorry, you can't.
Right.
It forces you to go off that cliff.
Yeah.
And that's what a good scary movie, if it can really affect you, kind of do is, okay, I'm trapped here with my fears. What do I do with that?
Yeah.
And what psychedelics can do is, to our senses, they'll become more literal. You could feel a presence in a room.
Sure.
You could go transported somewhere. You could see something a certain way. You could, feel like you're, well, I don't want to go on.
Well, but I think that this is really interesting because for me personally, like, I'm really scared of the idea of psychedelics, but what you're describing is in effect what great art accomplishes for me, right? Like the best art is transportative. Is that a word? Transportational. Transportational sounds like I got on a bus.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It transports you into another realm and you lose yourself in this art, whatever that may be. For me, film is the kind of the premier version of that, but it can be music. It can be even like a painting or whatever. That is for me, like, that's why we're artists.
Right.
Like, to not only engage in that and experience it, but to potentially create it for somebody else to experience. And like the fact that this seemingly, I would say almost innocuous anthology horror film is breaking that open for the viewer is quite amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good. And like they're purposefully creating things to push us in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Which is, again, why I'm just assuming everyone's seen Haunting of Hill House, why I liked it in the end. I think that last episode succeeded in doing that exactly. And to out myself even more here, you said, music and transportation that's how it's functioning.
Yeah.
Because Mickey Hart, the drummer of the Grateful Dead, one of the two drummers, says, we're in the transportation business.
Oh, nice.
That's what we do.
That's cool.
And films, too. They're transportive. You put it on and it's like kind of in Mandy,
that's exactly what I was.
The presence of psychedelics there.
Sure, yeah.
It's like this record. It's you put it on and the music comes out.
Yeah.
Like, and movies are the same way. When we talked about Halloween, versus, the new Halloween. And I was saying how I think the original, though, still, I don't think the new one's ever going to be what the original one is, because the original is still the more potent source of Halloween stuff, of what is Halloween in essence. And so when you put on Halloween just in the background in October, that is its spell coming out over you, transporting you. That's what I'm saying.
Man.
So I really liked that shot where the lights were going off in the background. I just wanted to do a hard turn here from all this.
The lights are going off in the background.
So
wait, where are we?
Exactly. No, I felt like we could just keep going.
We could, but let's talk a little bit about each side story, the anthology. Like
so
each
in
one
the
of
first
those.
one, the ghost one, where it really had me was that one shot, which I just said was there, where he's going down the hallway and behind him.
Oh God, that is so good.
The lights in the hallway, and it's just like we've seen that before, but they just figured out the perfect pacing for the lights, and that the fact that there wasn't sound to it. It wasn't like clunk, 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 clunk,
I know, yeah.
Which I feel like other movies would do.
Yes.
God, that was creepy. And then the design of the ghost girl too, I loved.
Yeah, I thought it was. It wasn't super. I think it was good. It was a good balance. It was freaky, but not like overdone.
Well, that's what I said. It was at the fun level, where it's not like it wasn't hitting that level where it was like it was just a person, which could be the more kind of realistic, shining kind of angle. But it was that fun kind of like, I don't want that to appear in front of me all of a sudden
and put its finger in your mouth.
Yeah,
you don't want that?
No.
Are you sure? Its long nail.
I don't know. Ask me on a different day.
Gross.
But like the sort of tension build up to in that first scene, where it's like when he goes into that room and all the mannequins are in there.
Mannequins
and it's
are
like,
just inherently fucking creepy.
When the door closes and you're like
dolls.
He's gonna get that all the lights are gonna go off and he's gonna get trapped in it.
Yeah.
Yet when it happens, it's like it's still great.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. What else did you love about the first one?
The lighting in general, the way they lit that first one felt so good. I was like, I'm in this place.
In particular versus the other ones, or is it just the overall?
That one, I think because the environment lends itself to kind of creepy, dank, whatever, dim, but
water's dripping.
like glowy, dim, like yellow lighting. I just felt like I wanted to go be in there and like get scared.
Yeah.
Whereas comparatively, the second one, I kind of saw the lighting insofar as like when the kid's in the car driving and his dashboard like is obviously lit by, an LED to brighten up the inside of the car so we can see his face. It's like I, as a filmmaker, can see that they had to make that.
I remember that exact shot too.
They made that concession to be like, how we're gonna make it bright just so we can see what. His face.
Soon as it cut like around him, I'm looking at the dashboard like, how bright is that?
Yeah, exactly. So little things like that. That first one just feels it's a place that I've always wanted to go explore at night and get scared. It just is. Cement and closed in is like, it's a nightmare that I have.
Yeah.
Like it's not really a recurring nightmare, but there is a recurring environment in my nightmares that I have that are literally cement walls, like, a tunnel of cement. And a lot of the time it's like a ramp that goes down deeper, and you get to the bottom of the ramp, and it's just it seems like a dead end, but you can actually take a right around the corner into an even darker, narrower space.
I can like see it exactly.
That is in so many of my dreams. I think that it's a primal thing, because to refer to a movie we've never talked about really, there's a movie called Baskin that is a Turkish horror film that
I saw it in theaters.
Fucking love.
Good.
And that whole movie, this is such a tangent, but I think it's important. It's to the point of what these filmmakers are doing too. that movie, when I watched it, I was like, why is all of this imagery shit that I've had nightmares about? And it started making me think, well, there's, maybe there's sort of a broader, like, human, like, there is symbolic or symbology in our consciousness, like even the collective consciousness type stuff. Maybe we all have these images in our nightmares, so to speak. Well, like they're thematic things that we all possess. And so, because I was like, oh my God, like in Baskin, they go down these cement stairs and there's like a cement tunnel and there's this thing and there's that thing and there's the tar and there's the water. Like these are all things that I have nightmares about. And I just totally coincidentally, about 4 or 5 months later, I went to a New Year's Eve party, which this guy I work with who is my cinematographer. It was his party, and he had a friend of one of the people. It's all filmmaker people. One of them was the DP for Baskin. This woman, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm from Turkey," and I was like, "Oh man, have you seen Baskin? It's like fucking one of my favorite horror films." And she's like, "Yeah, I shot it," and I was like, "What?" And so I said, "Okay, wait, I have to ask you a question. Was the filmmaker, the director, actively putting those thematic dream things in? Like, did he have a point of reference for those?" And she was like, "Oh fuck yeah, he specifically researched that to have this movie take place in those environments because he knew that those are dream symbols that we all experience."
What I think is so interesting about that is how it shows our collective consciousness is a changing, evolving one.
Sure.
Because like what I mentioned, what I liked so much in Mandy of the motorcycles and the guys on the motorcycles.
Yeah.
Like cavemen, they weren't like, thinking of motorcycles, nor were they thinking of cement, concrete walkways and spaces.
Right, but they were probably thinking of fucking caves.
Yeah.
And like scary caverns and shit that you go down or whatever.
Yet, I'd say like a natural cave formation, it's different from a cement, lights hanging down. Right. That's why I say it's evolving, it's changing. It's like our fears are allowed to be more specific.
Yeah, so that's a long way around of saying that I think this film is doing the same thing in a certain way. Like it's taking really, really well thought out deeper symbolic things that are touching like a primal part of our brains and then fucking with us with them.
You're right. And I think the first segment, it probably did that the best as far as location wise, which I think it was helped too. I don't remember seeing any exteriors of it. We kind of just were
no, we don't.
Definitely not. It with them. And I think that helped give it that sort of which also knowing that it was all in the guy's head makes it even work all that much better.
But even the second one, like you put yourself in the woods like there's something very primal about just being in the middle of nowhere in the woods at night.
And how about the guys, not even in the segment, but the setup to the segment of the guy's house that he's living in, the younger guy, the kid. You mean with Goodman? Yeah, so when we're with Goodman, I know. That's like that house where it's just like these sort of close together doorways, and
tight
like,
stairwell,
all that too.
So fucking good.
Dim. Just so if we're going in order here with the segments, we just brought up the second one, but the other thing I wanted to say about the first one was the protagonist in that one, especially, is I love like putting a sort of not a ragamuffin, but like a curmudgeon-y guy. Sure. Curmudgeon-y British bloke.
Yeah.
Put him where he's got to see ghost. Ghost, bloody nonsense. Yeah. Just put someone like that in a situation.
Salt of the earth.
Yeah. I think it's fun to see that kind of person in
definitely
that situation. So how about the second one?
So second one, yeah, you're right. That the transition of Goodman going and talking to him is very unsettling. Mm-hmm. Like the room that they end up in, I kind of, when they showed the stuff on the walls, I was like, oh shit.
And he straight up sees the other ghosts in there, which is like, or other people in there where he's like, no one else is here.
Right. Like, what the fuck is going on? So good.
I think that was my favorite of the setup kind of wraparound. If we have wraparounds attached to each of the segments, that was my favorite.
And dude, I'm sorry, but what a fucking genius device to have all these drawings of like woods and goat men. Like it's weird because it's something that I threw it away initially. I was like, oh, that's super cool. This kid is tripping out. But like, he's kind of also just like every other teenager who's into, like whatever death metal or what, you know what I mean? It's like when I was a kid, my friends had fucking, you know, they had metal posters with like demon symbols and fucking amazing artwork on them. And that's just a thing that some kids are fucking into, and it's cool. Mm-hmm. And so part of me just kind of wrote it off. I mean, it was a little extreme in this case that it's like covering all the walls, but also fucking cool, whatever. And then to have that be the demon that he hits, I'm sorry, but I was not prepared for that. When they cut to the actual goat-headed demon, I like yelled so loud in like joy.
I know. I remember that. I simultaneously felt, you know, for the same reasons. I loved it too. It was great.
It just wasn't what I was expecting. And I think because the first one uses sort of a different ghost, you know, a different version of a ghost, I almost thought we were going to get something along the same line, because you're expecting there to be some sort of through line.
That's what I was saying. I liked how each one was different.
Fucking awesome.
And you were, what you yelled is like, you're like, oh, demon! Yeah. It's like, yeah, demon one. And I was like, yeah, man, this is the demon one. It was so cool. The goat demon thing, imp, it was like, it was a good size where it was like small enough to get you, but it wasn't like so big. It was like, you know, it was an interesting size. It was on screen just the right amount to actually remain creepy.
Barely.
We were able to see it without seeing it.
Yeah, really good.
Good balance of that. And then it had that kind of witch-esque moment I liked where it talked. It didn't say like stay inside or don't go anywhere or
don't go.
Like its hands come up, you know. And that whole sequence too, it was great. I loved like how you know, you think it has to be intentional, but it's also just by the nature of just shooting him in the car. It was that, you know, just the right focal length and everything where you felt like there could always be something coming up in the background.
That is exactly right. They use an angle that is so, I remember thinking this is the perfect angle, because all I can do is wait for something to pop up right over his shoulder. Mm-hmm. Like, it's hard to even describe, but it's as if the camera was on the, what would you call that? On the very corner of the front windshield. You know, the front windshield where it meets the side window. It's right there. He's on sort of the left third, because it's a British car. And then you have all this empty space, but they're using a wide enough lens to make it feel deeper than it really is. But the passenger seat is in that empty space. So we feel like, oh shit, we're just obscured enough. There's stuff behind that we maybe can't see yet. And it's leaving this void where you're like, there is so much room in this shot for something to fucking pop into. And it never happens.
Or like quietly creep in.
Yes. I mean, I was like, every time they cut to that shot, I was like, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. And it didn't. It came from the other fucking side of the car, which is so good.
I thought it was interesting, like, where it both worked to make me feel with the kid more, as well as
that kid's good at that. That thing that he does, the like freaky nervous thing. He's really good. Well,
it made me feel for him, as well as just sort of, you know, how it's like we talked about before, I think, where it's like just when we watched X Day, we're just to sort of rile up any heavy emotions, like when we get into like the level of child abuse, you know, how that was used as a technique in that one to sort of get us to a certain point. In this film, the getting frustrated with how mean his parents were, like, put me at a level where I felt more just kind of like open and exposed.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really smart.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a priming the pump kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm like, these parents, like, it's horrible, you know, the way they're yelling at him.
Yeah, and then it's a really good device to instantly build a little bit of sympathy for that character too.
Yeah.
Like, we go, yeah, no wonder he's fucking losing his shit. His parents suck.
When he just runs out of the car, it's great.
I know.
It's only seems like a bad, and I did not see that coming with the tree thing too.
I know,
but it's great because now knowing the ending where it's all like dream logic, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
How about the last segment? with Martin Freeman more so.
Yeah, and I had said this while we were watching, like, Freeman is a fucking genius.
I had that down.
Actor.
What worked for me? Martin Freeman.
He is amazing. He has nuance in every character I've ever seen him do.
Which makes this The Hobbit so depressing, because that could have been... He's like the perfect Bilbo.
Yeah. But there's a moment when he hears a noise, and I think he's sitting on a couch or something like that, and he gives this slight little look of, it has so much going on, and it's like the most nothing look. But it has, what was that? I'm annoyed. Not again. You know what I mean? It has all these things in this one little look, and I feel like he just does shit that he like adds these little sprinkles of character, whatever expression that you just don't see all that often. Mm-hmm. He's amazing at that. But I really like this one. It's crisper. It's lit differently. It's in a very clean place. Like, it has cutaway shots to the environment in this really sort of pristine house. That sort of
acting's, I don't want to say style, it's just more like who he is, what he represents, his essence. It lent itself well to this one, because I think it's someone who, like, he has the presence of someone, like, we feel like he knows something, or he knows what's up, or like he knows what we're saying before we finish it. Yeah. Which, like, in the context of this story was great, because it's like, it's the one example where it's like, you know what I'm trying to say, where he goes to someone versus like the bloke at the beginning, you know, who's like shooken up by it. Martin Freeman's kind of like, he's not made his peace, but he's worked through it, and he's sort of incorporated it, and he has more of like winking kind of knowing. Right. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, I remember having the thought as that one started. I was like, "Oh right, Martin Freeman. Why is Martin Freeman in this?" Like my first thought was like, how the fuck they land him just for one of the short anthologies, and then obviously this pays off because it becomes a broader thing. Right. That he's the guy, the old dude who gives Goodman the cases. He's in makeup. That reveal was great, and you could, like, I think we both saw that there was something to that.
Like, character. We knew it was a guy in makeup or something. Someone aged up.
I was like, they're probably, that's gonna be. I thought initially it was gonna be the charlatan from the opening scene under the makeup, and that this was all a big dodge. I obviously didn't see the broader twist that it's not even a dodge. It's not even reality.
Because then when it's Martin Freeman. Oh, so
when it's Martin Freeman, I'm like,
so the last segment is that. Are we bleeding into the sort
I guess
of
we are, but
now?
So what else about the actual...
Well, I'm trying to remember, because like what I mostly remember was just the sort of out of focus shot of like the baby blanket moving. Yeah. But I felt like
really weird,
the actual segment itself was kind of little to nil, and
yeah, I
mostly just felt like it was them talking in the field. Like, it felt more like I remember more of the wraparound than I do the actual.
Yeah, I think story. the if you were taking it in isolation of like, is this one, the poltergeist one, that scary? I thought the shit getting thrown around and whatever, the baby stuff getting thrown around, and the out of focus blanket moving, and okay, like, it was fine, but fairly innocuous. Like, watching Freeman behave in those moments was compelling.
Well, that's what I think, that maybe that worked then, that it was kind of a truncated one, because even if we didn't know it, we knew this movie at the time, we knew this film was ramping up to something more, that, as far as that playing the card of like, how this can all be effective even when it's going to get Wizard of Oz, that becomes, you can kind of do that less and less as it goes, because the movies itself is ramping up to it.
And God, now I can't remember exactly, but do we cut back and forth to them out in the wilderness during that one?
Yeah, he's telling them.
See, that doesn't happen, right? In the first two, you're not getting cutbacks, right? They play out from start to finish, the cutaways. And this one, intercut.
I think that was really smart, just to show it's all...
Because shit's starting to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for the first time, we see the entity in the hood, like the jacket with the hood over, you can't see his face. That's the first time we see that when they're out in the they're out in the moors or whatever the fuck you call that. And then having that, how does it transition out?
Martin Freeman shoots himself,
but then
which was great. I just wanted to point out that was
so good. Me. Yeah,
how instantly he does it. Oh,
yeah, chilling. But then we're with.
He sort of goes by the train tracks, and then we see the path that's like just kind of off the road. That's like the broken fence path that leads to the sewer entrance.
Right. Okay.
And he's
he comes out of that.
Doesn't he kind of start to transform into his kid self too? Once he's sort of like on these train tracks.
No, that
happens.
After. But before,
that's when
you're
he's
right.
getting bullied.
The reveal that Freeman shows back up, and so he goes back to. Yeah, he goes back to the trailer.
Yeah.
With the dude who pulls the old makeup off. Then we're on the tracks. Then Freeman shows up again. I mean, we just sort of jump cut to the tracks, I think. And then shit really starts to fall apart. Like reality just falls away.
Yeah.
And that's right, because in the trailer, that's the first time Freeman pokes the hole in the wall and tears it. That is so fucking good.
I know.
I love that so much. When you start to really tactilely break down reality, I love that shit.
Yeah.
It's Looking Glass shit, right? It's like we're suddenly in just a fucking crazy fantasy world.
Looking Glass.
I love it.
Talk about, dream logic psychedelia.
That's right. That's exactly right. Suddenly we're in dream world, and I'm like, ooh, even better. Like we're falling down that hole.
And that's more the brain seeing what it needs to see versus what it wants to see.
So fucking good. Yeah, and like, him holding the goat baby.
Right. Fucking
great. Dude, all that shit is just trippy, weird, unsettling, awesome. And it happens at the right place, right? Like it's almost like the first two are kind of, they're kind of really well constructed cranking. You're cranking up and you're cranking up and you're cranking up.
And they're doing the anthology formula enough in itself to sort of mislead you in the end, too.
Oh, man. These motherfuckers.
So in the things of note, I'm going to get to why I know we're in good hands for this film.
Yes,
why
absolutely.
It's all working. So, I mean, the last thing, I don't think there's anything more to say about it because we already kind of answered it, was just, it's cool how when we're talking about the context of these stories, I like when this kid reacted to this and that even though it got Wizard of Oz, it didn't undermine any of that.
No. It's not like that there's a movie that I watched when I was a kid, something about like they came from Mars or
Invaders from Mars?
Yes, Invaders from Mars, and it's all just a dream.
Oh, yeah.
That bummed me the fuck out when he like wakes up and it's like, it's all a dream. And I was like, oh, guys.
I've been wanting to rewatch it. I forgot that was the ending.
Yeah, and then I think they show up again or whatever.
Oh, maybe it wasn't.
Oh, maybe it wasn't. That trope is very touch and go, to say the least. But
But was there anything else as far as why that worked in this one?
Because it didn't no, because the context of it is solving things. That's why it fucking works. Is because it's giving us an answer. When it's just like, it was all a dream, it's not solving anything.
Well, the answer is also, as I said, is that there's no answer.
Right.
It's embracing the
I mean, at minimum, the answer is, okay, he's in a coma. Great. That makes everything make more sense. And they feed us. They say the janitor is the first guy.
Yeah.
The nurse, whatever, kid is the kid. Freeman is the doctor. The doll is is the little girl from the first one. So they're feeding us the context of why this guy in his coma state is having these dreams or whatever you want to call them.
Well, I think just to reiterate,
that's satisfying. That's not a cop out,
right? Well, just to end again. I mean, I already said this. Reiterate why that all worked for me as the ending. It wasn't just all for nothing in the end because it was his dream. Was the filmmaking doing such the thing where no longer on stable ground. Like, as far as I know, as soon as it went off the rails, it wasn't, that safety wasn't there of, oh, it was just a dream. Like, I couldn't say that confidently. That's why it worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like you're right. It's an answer, but it's not too much of an answer. It's not too much of a bow on it.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's the contradiction inherent in everything.
Yeah.
That's what's scary to us. That's when things are icky.
And even just, dude, somebody sitting in a coma, vegetative state, but maybe knows what's going on, which is kind of a thing that they talk about briefly, but unable to do anything about it. That idea is so fucking unsettling.
And he's the perfect age to kind of reinforce that idea. It's like, he's over
not
the
ancient.
hill, but not ancient. It's like he could still have a good last lease on life.
Yeah.
But we can see how he's
man.
What is they say to him? You've been scared your whole life. Something like that.
Yeah.
Should we get into our next section?
Yes.
All right. Let's get into what did not work.
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
I gotta be honest. I mean, I think the only thing while we were watching it that I was like, I'm not sure I'm cool with that. In the first two, maybe in the third one too, but maybe by then I was over it. They do the standard kind of version of a jump scare with the loud noise. And, I think I'm just sensitive to that thing, because I'm like, if you're gonna make a horror film and you're that good a filmmaker, can't you do a different version of the jump scare? The one that really stuck out to me was in the first anthology, in the first story, when the guy's looking around and he, the lights are turning off and he's got the flashlight and he's wandering around, we do see the girl's hand creep up from the bottom of the frame and grab a railing. And they add a and I was like, I don't think that helped that moment. I think if you had no sound at all, or just the room tone or whatever, and still had that hand come up, it would be freaky enough.
So
that's really it though for me.
It's hard because I agree with you, but what I already said stays true, where it's like that kind of filmmaking though made me think I was safe for when I had the rug pulled out for me in the ending.
Yeah.
It's a weird trade-off, to feel like it's less good in a sense during it, but because I was able to get on board with that as a style pretty quickly,
sure,
and just saying, oh, this is what it is, and it's done well for what that is.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't put down anything for what didn't work for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Fuck, maybe you should buy this movie.
It's up there. I think it's more just that I'm not really buying too many movies these days,
right?
but it is there for me. I don't know.
I don't feel like I have anything.
Well,
I just don't. It's so good.
Let's go to things of note then.
Great.
Things of note.
Things of note!
This should be interesting.
All right, this is what I'm excited to get into here, because I do have a few things for things of note.
Cool.
So the there's two writer directors on this. One of them, Jeremy Dyson. He is the creator, writer, director of a show that was near and dear for me circa late 90s, early 2000s called The League of Gentlemen. It's a British show that came stateside thanks to Comedy Central. And The League of Gentlemen, it was a show that was like, God, how do you describe it? It's like really dark humor. It's but really surreal too. It's kind of like take the most surreal, odd, like don't know whether to laugh or not aspect, like Kids in the Hall episodes or skits, and mix that with like Monty Python of kind of like it's mostly cross-dressing men playing the women. And then just again, really kind of dark and gross in a lot of ways. But I loved it. It's so eerie. It's got such a tone to it, especially when you can decode what they're saying. They got the heavy accents for us Americans. And so kind of not dissimilar to South Park, where it has that gross out humor and almost, it's easy to call it immature. It's actually, I think, made by really smart people.
Sure. Well, I mean, you could obviously, I don't watch South Park, but I think you could make the argument that that's made by really smart people too.
That's what I'm.
Oh, I get. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Huh?
Ironically, yeah.
What?
So, just if there's any other fans of the show out there, maybe this is still a thing of note. I thought it was interesting. Just sort of, I could see there's certain things where it's like, okay, I could see how the same people made Ghost Stories made League of Gentlemen, and one of them was just that a big word from last week, dreary. The dreary British countryside.
That's right.
Specifically the fields, the rolling hills, like that's the League of Gentlemen takes place in a little town like that's separated from any highways called Royston Vasey, and it's like the hill. It looks exactly like that, where there's always just a gray wind.
Yeah, that's England for you.
And then like the heavy prosthetics, just the that they'll have in the League of Gentlemen, just sort of a mask. Just sort of the idea of masks. It's used very differently, and we know it's a mask that he's wearing in Ghost Stories, but just something about that of like the idea of changing your identity via mask that was, I don't know, I see that in their blood.
Yep. I got a whole screenplay based on that mask thing that I want to make. It's so good.
We hope to see it.
One day.
The
well, and I think you're probably going to say this, it's got to be on your notes, but the fact that this was a play.
Oh, yeah.
That's huge. Yeah. Like, that makes so much of this make more sense to me.
Yeah.
Where I go, fuck, yes. It definitely was a play. But they, there's a really, it can be treacherous to translate a play into a film. I've seen it, you see it done a lot of time, and you see, I think one of the biggest problems that arises is that oftentimes play dialogue does not translate to film dialogue for some reason. This does not suffer from that whatsoever.
Well, I mean, they could have adapted. Yeah, I'm sure they adapted it.
Well, of course no, exactly. I think that's to their credit. They made they adapted it to
they didn't get trapped by.
That's right.
Yeah,
right. And so until it flashed up on the screen at the very end, I would never have been like, this is obviously a play.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So they did their job really well of saying we're in a different medium, but they used things that I bet are so fucking cool in the play version too.
You can imagine the tearing down the background.
100%. Like that is genius. Cross mediums, man. Like, I used to have a teacher who would be like, whatever you're doing, go see other art. Go to the opera, go to the museum, go to concerts. Like, don't just get trapped in your particular medium that you're in love with. Other art will fucking when you experience it, it will seep its way into your art and inform it and make it better.
That can also be true in like the sense where maybe your teacher didn't mean it, but where if something doesn't work for you, then that's still informing you.
Yes. Absolutely.
I can say like one time I went to an opera as like a 12-year-old and was bored.
And then you walked out, you had a tummy ache and you walked out and you're like, Mom, Dad, I don't feel good. Can we go? And you walked out into the alley and a guy held you up and like stole your mom's pearls, and then your dad tried to stop him and your dad and your mom got killed, and then you became Batman.
I'm Batman, Tim.
Fucking knew it.
No one will believe me except no one.
That's what makes Batman so smart.
Yeah.
Anyway.
If only my parents were billionaires.
Damn it.
No.
You're just in an alternate universe.
Play Batman. Yeah, it was a play and it's great.
Yep. What else you got?
I really liked the poster for this. There's two, not the one on Wikipedia, the one on the IMDb. That's the throwback style poster.
I'm going to find it.
I have it right here. Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
It's So this is the.
That is amazing.
This is the one that's going to be on our website, folks. And this is how I remembered the brain sees what it wants to see.
Holy shit,
there's
beautiful.
A part of me, because I think it's used for movies that I wasn't liking so much, as far as like the throwback looking poster, like where you almost want to see the creases in it, the Grindhouse style. But this one earns it, and I think it's really well done.
That's awesome. I love that.
So on a podcast,
I'm saying on my fucking wall.
The poster works. So look at it. It'll be on our site.
Yeah.
You'll know which one I'm talking about when I say the throwback one, not with small accolades next to the title. It's not the one that I will call the accolades one. That's like all quotes about it.
Yeah, that one's pretty boring.
So this was a horror anthology film. I wanted to see if there's any truth to this idea, or what you thought, that an anthology film, which a lot of the times has 3, the middle one is always the best.
God, I mean, I'd have to go fucking deep in and look at all of the ones I've watched.
Right. The one
that's interesting.
The one that I watched with Art the Clown in it, that was true. I feel like it's just, there's other ones that's I can't think off the top of my head.
Well,
Maybe
I just watched the Buster Scruggs.
I haven't seen it.
I think the middle one is the best in that one, actually.
So I'm like wondering if there's any truth to that. Why is that? And I can only think of is like the pressure's off. They have more experimentation. It's the fun and games segment of the film. It doesn't have all this as I said, the pressure's off. It doesn't have to have, it doesn't have to the opening or the ending.
Well, and also just from a sort of structural point of view, you worry that you're going to suffer from if the first 3/4 of the movie or 2/3 of the movie aren't peaking, so to speak, we might lose people, right? They might just turn it off or whatever. So it's almost just a safe bet to put your best one in right smack in the middle so that it keeps people in, and then they're hoping that the next one is as good or better. And yeah, I mean, that's interesting.
It always seems like
it's a tough call, honestly.
It's a fun, they're the fun ones where it's like, oh, that had the cool creature in it, or
well, I think that you're hitting on more of sort of, it is the promise of the premise one. It's like the one.
It's separated from a setup and payoff. So it's just in essence, here's the story.
That's right. Yeah, you're not bound necessarily. See, this is a tough question. I'm not sure. I think in this one, the second one is the best. It definitely got the biggest reaction from me.
They're all consistent. So maybe best is the wrong word, too. Maybe just kind of most fun. I don't know.
Yes, unconstrained, I think, is probably what it ends up being.
Which translates to me
especially
as
if there are 3.
Best, because unconstrained equals is will win me over.
That's interesting. I didn't like that one the best, but it is the most unconstrained.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm not sure I like any of them better than I like. To me, this is I think the first very consistent.
The first 2 I like the best just because of what we talked about. The third one, it was different. It was blending. It was coming in and out.
Yep.
It wasn't sort of a whole complete little story. I still dug everything I was watching, but it just to me wasn't like a standalone story like the other 2 were.
Yeah.
The we kind of already talked about this, saying, oh, could this be a buy? Is this going to get better with age? I'm wondering what its rewatchability value has. Is it going to grow on me? Anything else to that? As we were talking about it, and we're sort of seeing now the clues of knowing it's all in his head. Or not,
I bet you there's so much more shit going on that that you'll pick up on.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that it does have that rewatchability factor.
Yeah.
That was my biggest question for saying okay, how much do I love this? How much do I want to watch it again soon? Do I need to see it again? All that stuff.
Yeah.
Just kind of wondering.
Give it a month.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, if it's still up on, where did we watch this on Amazon?
You had it all up
it was
and
on
going.
Hulu, but whatever. I think it's also on Amazon Prime. if it's still up in a month, I'll probably turn it back on, honestly. Because I think you can take this one in pieces anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, it's an anthology. You could just watch two of them or one of them.
Appeals
whatever.
of the anthology.
Yeah.
Did
Cool,
you
dude.
have anything else for things of note? Because I had one last good one, I think.
No, I kind of covered all of them earlier in the other section. So, yeah.
Okay. Andy Nyman, who plays the Philip Goodman, I believe. You know,
oh, wait, really?
Or yeah,
he's one of the directors is the lead?
Did I confuse? Yeah, it looks like it. Andy Nyman. Andy Nyman.
Great. I didn't even think of that or notice it.
We have a 2020 film that he's going to be in. It's like 8th billing or something like that. Andy Nyman is going to be playing, or has played, they've shot it, Sir James Hobbs Coddington in the upcoming Jungle Cruise film.
Who's in that? Is The Rock in that?
I think The Rock.
I feel like The Rock should be in that.
And Mary Poppins.
Emily Blunt?
Yeah.
Nice. That is not in a realm of movies that I would normally see, but it's like I'll probably... I don't know. I'm not going to go to the theater to see it, but I'll watch it one day.
Right?
It's kind of like Jumanji, the new Jumanji. I was like, I'll never watch that. And then I was home one day and was like, oh, look.
I want to see it.
And it's good.
It actually stars Emily Blunt. She's first billing. And Jesse Plemons. And good old Paul Giamatti. So...
Hey, shit. Good cast.
Anyway, I just wanted to say the name Sir James Hobbs Coddington as our last thing of note.
Sweet.
Great. So how about we do our recommendations?
Yeah, mine is, I'm sure people have... Oh, you want to go first?
No. Do you already have one?
I do.
Okay, never mind then.
Why? What do you want to say? I want to know. Come on. Don't keep me in suspense.
Well, because sometimes you go like, oh, shoot, what is my recommendation? I was going to recommend that you recommended Baskin.
Oh.
Because you mentioned it earlier.
Haven't I already recommended that? I think I did in one of our earlier episodes. Maybe not.
No.
Shitballs. Well, fuck. You definitely need to go see that. So I'll double up. No, the one I was going to say, well, you know what? Yeah, go fucking see Baskin. Find it for sure. Because the one I was going to recommend is something that probably all of you have seen, but I rewatched it because it's on Amazon Prime, which is Hereditary. That movie is so fucked.
It's great. This is
but Baskin,
it's
see Baskin for sure.
Hereditary is already on people's periphery.
Exactly. No, Baskin is incredible. So yeah, that's gonna be mine. That's fine.
Baskin, I can second that. Baskin, I saw it at the Cine Lounge here in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Kind of going in, what is it? And at first I was like, I don't know. It had some pretty low techiness at the setup that was kind of putting me off. And I'm like, this is gonna be better. This is kind of weird, but when it gets going,
oh boy,
it's great. I loved it in the end. Yeah, see Baskin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna recommend Dead just because I was already talking about this in an episode where we'll just pull from the episode what our recommendations are. I'll officially recommend Dead, The League of Gentlemen.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people don't know about it, and it's pretty cool. I don't know. It informs a pretty neat space of whatever it's doing. It's cool. I like it a lot. It's something, as I said, hold near and dear. And they it came out on Comedy Central, kind of adapted. They cut some stuff out to hit the time, but around the show came out with the same time Strangers with Candy did, with Stephen Colbert. And it's cool. They were a good grouping, both of those shows. I really love. So yeah, check out League of Gentlemen. I don't know where you can find it, but you can find it if you want to, I'm sure.
You can find anything if you want to nowadays.
Believe it if you need it. If you don't, just pass it on.
Wow.
How about next week's movie? It's my turn. Give me that hat.
Give me that hat.
I'm still so happy you picked Ghost Stories last time, Tim.
Pick something awesome.
All right. Well, this is a long one. Oh, God. This one's for my friend Arn Badalini, who really wanted us to watch Planet of the Vampires, a 1965 Soviet film.
Yes.
So it's going to be our first Soviet film. And knowing Arn, I don't know if this film is going to quite be the this is something we can expect to scare us. I don't think this is a good film as far as our quest for what's scary, but
I don't know.
I can promise you it'll be something.
Planet of the Vampires. Cool.
1965 Soviet movie. We don't know how to find that one either, but we'll believe we can find it.
Maybe it'll be at Videotech.
Yeah, go rent it again. Planet of the Vampires, 1965, and I don't think we've done a Russian movie yet, so.
Nope.
Great.
Russians.
We'll see you, Tim, and see everyone else back here for that. And in the meantime, you can find us, if you didn't already find us, at dismemberinghorror.com.
Yep. You know, and everywhere else. iTunes, Instagram.
Yeah.
Our Instagram is fun.
Yeah. We're going to be updating it more soon here. Got to catch up.
Cool, man.
All right. Great. Good seeing you, Tim. Good seeing you out there.
We're high-fiving.
Well, Tim instigated it.
Man, we're such nerds. We both have glasses now.
Yours don't even have any lenses in them, but...
Shut up. They do so.
All right. See you next time.
Bye.